Here it is right here.
Okay. And it was posted and advertised?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I'd like to make a correction to the reading of the notice. The applicant is requesting a use variance from Article 465, Section 61, not Section 16 of the Morrisville Borough zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. No problem.
Just for the record, thank you.
Yeah, it was inadvertently stated as
16.
Section 16. Okay, next up is party status, please, by solicitor for the...
Yes. So at this time, any person in the audience who would like to become a party to this action, if they would come up to the microphone, state their name and address for the record, and we will acknowledge that, and you will become a party to this transaction. Either before or against. So if you're in favor of the application or if you're against the application, if you would like to become a party, you receive notices, etc., and you can either approve or disapprove, be in favor or not be in favor of the application.
Okay, and may I add a little bit of something as to why, or just
not at this point in time?
Okay.
Just
all right. So I am not.
You can pull that microphone down. Thank you.
Okay, I am not in favor. My name is Robin Cavanaugh. I'm at 457 North Delmore Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Janet Baldwin. I am not in favor. I'm at 439 North Delmore Avenue.
And let me make this clear. We're not asking for anybody who's, if you're in favor or not in favor, you will have time. There will be a portion in this evening in which you can voice your opposition or support of the application. This is really just to become a party to this matter for tonight and moving forward. Okay.
Dennis Houlihan, 44 East Trenton Avenue, against.
Thank you.
Ann Perry, 43 Fairview Avenue, Morrisville, against.
I'm correct. We don't have to state for or against right now,
You
right?
do not at this point.
Tom Wisnowski, 815 Crown Street, Morrisville.
Thank you.
Ellen Wisnowski, 815 Crown Street.
Matthew Gary, 407 North Delmore, against.
Melanie Hoover, 91 Fairview Avenue, against.
Peter Mulcahy, 72 Fairview Avenue, and also against.
Gary McElwee, 826 Highland, against.
Okay, are you getting all this? Okay.
Hussam Jalad, 45 Ridge Ave, against.
Jill Anderson, 350 Hillside Avenue.
Brad Anderson, 350 Hillside Avenue, against.
Susan Graff, 461 North Delmore Avenue.
Jim Graff, 461 North Delmore Avenue, against.
Randall Kenner, 613 North Delmore Avenue, opposed.
Adriana Korb, 840 Highland Avenue, Morrisville, Pennsylvania, and I'm against.
Carla Davis, 833 Highland Avenue, Morrisville.
Ronald Gumbach, 730 Crown Street.
Judy Crone, 742 Crown Street, against.
Sandy Vallone, 38.
Excuse me.
Vallone, with a V, 38 East Trenton Avenue, Morrisville, against.
Deborah Whiplinger, 439 North Delmore Ave.
Franklin Hedberg, 725 Crown Street, Morrisville, against.
Daniel Morganti, 726 Crown Street, against.
Stephen Fowler, 444 Hillside Avenue, Morrisville.
Christina Morganti, 726 Crown Street.
April Roach, 56 Fairview Avenue, against.
Joe Cavanaugh, 457 North Delmore Avenue, against.
Gene Cummins, 465 North Delmore Avenue, against.
Barbara Temple Owls, 465 North Delmore Avenue, against.
Bill Minder, 423 Crown Street, against.
Catherine Heidgen, 808 Crown Street, against.
Felix Heidgen, 808 Crown Street, against.
Leslie Spencer, 740 Crown Street, against.
Julia Gombach, 730 Crown Street, against.
Philip 719 Crown Street.
Bruce Stevens, 714 Crown Street.
Paul Chapman, 332 North Pennsylvania Avenue.
Randy Holman, 510 Crown Street.
Andreas Krohn, 742 Crown Street.
Albert Mejias, 423 North Delmore, very much against.
William Setzer, 806 Crown Street. I'm against the variance.
Janice Lysak, 171 West Maple Avenue.
Michael Isaac, 171 West Maple Avenue.
Christine Klackner, 705 Crown Street, against.
Patricia Pertigo, 336 North Pennsylvania Avenue.
Gary Amos, 519 Crown Street, against.
Tom Davidson, 734 North Pennsylvania Avenue, Morrisville.
Deborah Smith, 221 West Maple Avenue, against.
John Weinhardt, 846 North Pennsylvania, against.
Deborah Shimoleski, 853 Highland Avenue, Morrisville, Pennsylvania.
Wendy Gillio, 441 North Delmore Avenue, against.
Diane Garber, 447 North Delmore, against.
William Root, 447 North Delmore Avenue, against.
Justin Bowers, 219 West Trenton Avenue.
David Ney, 187 Center Street.
Jane Berger, 90 West Maple Avenue, Morrisville.
Holly Harmon, 838 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Morrisville.
Susan Parry, 233 Stockholm Avenue, Morrisville.
Yvonne Ruthroff, 51 East Philadelphia Avenue, Morrisville.
Todd Sanford, 28 Dieter Avenue, Morrisville. I'm against it.
Charles Davis, 833 Highland Avenue, Morrisville. I'm against it.
Mary Renda, 343 Crown Street.
Okay, thank you, everyone. At this point, we will ask for the applicant to provide any exhibits that they may have. Just the application as submitted. Okay.
And I'd like to enter board exhibits. One, we have the application for the applicant, the notice which was previously read, and we'd like to enter into the record the applicable provisions of the Morrisville Borough zoning ordinance, specifically Article 10, Section 465-61. Article 3, Section 465-9, which is the definition of the R2 residential district. Article 3, Section 465-17, definition for the use of B10. Article 10, table, which is the table of uses within the borough. Are there any objections to any of the exhibits from the board? Hearing none, we can begin the hearing. If the applicant would approach the microphone. I believe the applicant is Alexander. Okay, yeah. There's one applicant. Okay, Alexandra.
Yes.
Okay, Alexander Smith. I'd like to swear you in.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're the applicant. You have no witnesses with you. You will. Okay, we're going to swear you in. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
If you would state your name for the record.
Alexandra Smith.
And your witness.
David Moyer.
Okay. Your address, please.
443 North Delmore Avenue.
433.
433 North Delmore Avenue.
Okay. And the witness.
433 North Delmore.
Okay. And like to swear the witness in.
your right hand, please. Do you swear testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes.
Okay. Really, the floor is yours. Yeah, you are unrepresented, correct? You do not have an attorney with you?
Correct. No.
Okay. So the floor is yours as to explaining your application and what you would like, what variances you're seeking, and what you would like to happen or as of tonight.
Obviously, we would like to put a recovery house at the property. You know, we're in the process of trying to help people that have lost their way, basically, that are addicted to drugs and alcohol. We have joined multiple organizations in the county, from Bucks County Recovery House Association to the Sober Living House Association of Pennsylvania to PAR as well. There's no reason to deny our application because these people need a home just as much as anyone else, and discriminate against them would just be unfair.
Can you explain to the board what variances are being requested? We did receive your application, obviously.
Correct. The only variance we really need is the lot size of 1 acre.
Okay, so
everything else conforms to the stipulations that were written in the zoning.
Side yard, front yard, etc.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to leave it to the board at this point to ask questions of you.
I believe we also were being asked to provide a land use variance also, right? Not just a lot size variance?
Lot size is the only thing that I saw in the zoning that was non-conforming. Everything else conformed to the
Okay, for clarification, in the R2 zoning district, that type of facility, a sober recovery facility, halfway house, whatever, is not allowed?
Correct. So we would need the variance for that.
Correct. So, okay, so just to be clear then, it's at least the two variances.
Two variances, correct.
Okay.
Right, to clarify, so it's a variance from the
R2.
In the R2 district, the use is classified as B10 in the zoning hearing, and a B10 is classified as a orphanage, halfway house, nursing home, or other licensed establishment for the care of sick, aged, crippled, or convalescent persons. Under the current zoning, this usage is not a by right use of a property within the R2 district.
Correct.
And use. Okay, so understanding that, we have a request for two variances. One is for the lot size, which is insufficient, and also for land use.
Correct.
Okay.
Just use.
Just use, yes.
Just use.
Okay. Let me ask, I mean, are you folks aware then, if you look at the land use table, that there are three other zoned areas within Morrisville Borough that do allow this sort of facility to operate without any need to request a variance?
Yeah, we are aware of that, but we are also aware that there are recovery houses that are also in R2 zones that are not in zones that you have written by the law.
Okay. So you do understand there are legal areas within, or zoning compliant areas, I should say, not legal.
Well, I guess legal is a relative term because
zoning compliant.
Under the ADA, this should be allowed pretty much anywhere in any township.
Okay, so at this point, Alexandra Smith owns the property?
Yes.
Or are you joint owners of the property?
She's the owner.
Okay, all right. At this point, you both occupy it as your primary residence?
No, no one lives there currently.
Okay, the property is empty.
Correct.
Will either of you be the administrator of the Friendship Freedom LLC?
Friendship First LLC.
Friendship First LLC.
I'm the owner of the LLC. I have an acting administrator who is 25 years sober, who will be running the day-to-day operation.
Okay. So Alexandra will own it. David will be the manager of the administrator, or
the owner of the LLC.
Owner of the LLC, manager of the LLC, I think as they formally call them.
That's correct.
So, okay. Is Friendship LLC already, Friendship First LLC already an established limited liability company, or is it a TBD based upon?
It's already established.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania?
In Pennsylvania?
In Pennsylvania, yes.
Okay.
We got a DBA coming, should be in any day.
But it's currently formed as Friendship First
Correct.
LLC.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have other facilities that you own and are manager of as manager?
Currently, no.
This would be it.
This would be the first one, correct?
This would be the startup.
Correct.
Okay. Has Friendship First LLC received any certifications and?
As I said, we're a member of PAR, Bucks County Recovery House Association, and Sober Living Association of Pennsylvania.
To the best of your knowledge, is that all that is required in order to open and operate a facility of this type, or are there further certifications you must seek to obtain in order to?
Actually, there are no certifications that are required at all.
Will you receive state and or federal? No. It'll all be privately funded from resident money?
Out of my pocket.
Okay.
There's no state, no county money involved.
Okay. All right. Other members of the board, any?
Based on your application, you intend to have 9 persons living there?
Correct.
Single sex or?
Female. Female only.
All female?
Correct.
Okay. In 3 bedrooms?
Correct.
Okay. And they are permitted cars and or motorcycles, one or the other, is that correct?
Correct.
What do you propose for parking?
There's plenty of parking on the lot.
The lot that's across the street?
No, the lot itself.
Correct. Is it paved at the present time, or
currently no, but the whole street, there's very few that are paved. It conforms with the street.
So they'll just be parking in a grassy area?
It's not grass, it's rock.
It's gravel? It's
rock.
Rock?
Correct. Rock, gravel. Is there a difference?
And you have plenty of room for 9 cars there maneuvering in and out?
You could fit more than 9. Easily.
Yeah, Steve, I had just one question. Just, how are they obtaining their tenants? Is it by referral?
I don't think that really is germane to what we're.
Right, in that respect, because if they are taking referrals, then they do need to be certified.
But they're saying that they're not certified. They're not going to. They don't need licenses or certifications. It's just going to be in and out.
Unless they're getting referrals.
Unless they get referrals, but they're not claiming to get referrals at this point in time.
Can I ask that?
You just have to be able to fit them there.
You can ask. Sure.
Go ahead,
Sure.
In terms of your tenancy, because you stated you had affiliations with area organizations, will your tenants be referred, or how do you anticipate?
All tenants will be referred.
And I believe Pennsylvania does have a law that if you're taking referrals, then you do need to be certified.
I'm not aware of that law.
Yeah, I know that came up before.
Who would you be certified with?
I'm sorry?
Who would you be certified with?
The state of Pennsylvania?
No, there's nothing currently in place.
I believe there was an agenda item before Borough Council in January with regard to another proposed house off of West Trenton, where it was brought up. This is a very new law for Pennsylvania, that specifically if you are getting referrals from agencies, then you do need to be certified.
We're not getting them from government agencies. I think you're misunderstanding the difference between that application and ours. Ours is a recovery house. That is a clinic that would administer either methadone or Suboxone.
No.
But there is no law that I'm aware of that exists.
All right. I mean, you might want to check because I know the law is new.
Say the law again.
The law is a new law.
And when did it go into place?
I honestly can't give that date, but I know it was brought before Borough Council in January with regard to another application.
Okay, that may be the case. I'm not aware of it. Every organization that I have joined has not made me aware of that. I've dealt with the Bucks County Drug and Alcohol. They have not made me aware of that. So I am unaware of any law that is in existence at this point.
So that's who will be giving you your referrals?
The referrals would come from places like Live and Grin, Liberté, Wadenza, people coming out of the detox process.
And I understand the accommodations that have to be made under the Fair Housing Act, but is this the only way a disabled person, and your application states that, and the law states that these women are disabled under the law. Is this the only way a disabled person can live in a residential area within the borough, to live in this particular house on this particular street?
With this disability, there is only one other house in the entire county that is like the house that we're proposing.
In the entire county?
Yes. It's in Doylestown. It's not even in the lower end of the county.
Can you explain what is so unique about this particular home and location then?
We allow patients to recover with maintenance.
Can you explain that?
Medical maintenance.
Can you elaborate?
There's not really much more to elaborate. They're allowed to be medical provided by a doctor.
That'll take place in the home itself?
No, the doctor would prescribe it and be given from the doctor, not from the home.
That was not in the application. Okay. So this house is unique. Then why you haven't gone to the essence of
medically,
this particular house?
It's called MAT, which is called medically assisted treatment.
I understand the process, but why this particular house in this particular area?
Because most of the houses in this area do not allow it.
And nor does this house in this area. Because this is not a by right permitted use within the R2 district. So I'm not understanding your argument.
It's not an argument. I'm just telling you what the house is.
Right, but you
asked why it was unique. That's why it's unique.
The uniqueness of the house that you want to use for your clientele is not this house from the way you've described it.
It's no different than any other house, except that we allow treatment from a medical doctor, whereas most houses in the county do not allow it. It's a choice, basically.
Okay. Thank you.
To be granted a variance, the applicant really needs to demonstrate a hardship. Other properties are available in permitted zoning districts that could be used for your business. You own a property in a district where this particular use is not permitted. So could you explain what is the hardship?
Well, basically, that law is discriminating against people in recovery. I find that law to be unethical, and it should not be on the books.
Yeah, but that could be said for any non-conforming use. Is it discriminating against industrial businesses?
You're discriminating against people with disabilities. Under the ADA, it's considered a disability.
It is, and we've acknowledged that it is a disability.
Correct. So that's why we need the variance.
Well, all righty then.
You do it. Okay. Go ahead and ask.
Okay, you mentioned your house.
Turn that thing on. It's up. Put it out. Lights on.
Looks like it's stuck. Oh, wow. All right. You said your house is unique in that it's a medically assisted treatment. Would you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, what makes it different from another recovery house? Somebody that, I mean, that's a patient or is a tenant at another recovery house, sees a doctor, maybe prescribed a medication for cholesterol or anything. I mean, how is your house different?
The doctor is prescribing medication that will help them alleviate their problems with heroin and methadone.
Okay, so you're saying it's medically assisted because the tenants there are being treated with what?
It would vary, obviously. They may be taking Suboxone, methadone. It really depends on their doctor.
Okay, so it sounds kind of like they're a patient as well as a tenant.
Absolutely not. We're not doctors. We don't prescribe the medication.
Okay. I'm just trying to distinguish between a regular recovery house and a medically assisted recovery house. So you're saying all the other recovery houses, the tenants there are not allowed methadone, not allowed Suboxone?
Correct.
And this is where your house is different. Okay.
Correct.
And again, to elaborate on this particular aspect, because this was not in the application, you mentioned methadone, so we'll go with methadone. Methadone, they will go off-site to a clinic or a doctor's office?
Correct.
So it's just the fact that the person is under the methadone treatment
Correct.
at the house?
Correct.
Okay. It's not going to be administered there?
No.
Nor will any other prescription drugs?
Well, if they're prescribed a different prescription drug,
they won't be administered. They can take them if they've been prescribed.
Correct.
Okay.
I was going to say narcotics specifically.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
I'm good.
I pretty much have
good.
question.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. I one or two, not too many. This is a fairly new property as far as construction. I've never really seen the building itself. You say there's paved areas? No,
there's
stone?
no pave. It's stone. Correct.
Okay.
There's stone in the driveway as well.
Okay.
Just so you're aware, the property goes from the street to the canal.
Yes, I know. You got that big incline.
Correct.
Isn't the backyard mostly underwater?
Absolutely.
Aren't you
not.
in a floodplain?
I am in a floodplain. The house is not flooded since we've owned it.
Oh, well, I've been here 13 years and I've seen it flooded.
Not at this house.
Well, why would you imagine when they built that new house, they elevated as such? Because they wanted to spend the money?
The first level, it could be finished. It's above grade.
I know it's above grade.
Right.
What's behind that big burn and the stairway? What's behind it?
That's the house where it starts.
Right. You have a burn. Then you have those two set of stairs, or one or two set of stairs?
The burn is completely unnecessary.
Okay.
It's for aesthetics.
Oh, I see. You mentioned that you know, you're in great support of the ADA, which I find absolutely admirable. Do you have an elevator in this building?
No.
You plan to put one?
No.
So you're discriminating against people in wheelchairs?
Absolutely not.
How are they going to get upstairs? You're going to carry them?
If we get a patient that needs an elevator, we'll get an elevator.
I see. Do you have a handicap parking space?
As opposed to regular parking space?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
It's unnecessary at this point.
Had you provided a site plan, I could actually look at it and tell you if you could fit 9 cars. You really hurt your application by not providing us with a site plan.
The site plan should be on record at Morrisville.
Did you see a site plan?
That should be part of the application.
I may even have one that I can get to you.
I didn't see a site plan.
No, it was not part of the application, and that is correct. I mean, given the fact that there's a variance requested for size or dimension because it is under 1 acre, which you have requested a variance from, to state that there can be 9 cars that can easily maneuver in and out of a gravel or, well, I'll correct myself. You said it was not gravel; it was rock. A rock area is difficult for us to picture or comprehend without any plans.
The lot size is on the application. 69
I understand that.
by 216.
No, I understand. I see the lot size, but where the house is situated on the lot, we don't have that information as part of the application, and therefore the house could be situated any which way, given the fact that there are side yards and front yard buffers required and rear yard buffers required, and to see how 9 cars can maneuver in and out is difficult for us to picture, I guess, at this point in time.
Do you have existing curb cuts at this time?
Say again?
Do you have existing curb cuts, and how many?
No, there are no curb cuts. That is in line with the street. There are no curbs on the entire street.
So the house you're using now has stone for parking. You have no curb cuts.
There's no curb cuts on the entire street.
And are you using it to park cars there now when you're there at the house?
Yes. There's 2 trailers parked in a car there right now. There's 3 parked as we speak.
What kind of trailers?
Like a tow trailer and a trailer to store anything you wanted in it.
So they're unregistered vehicles?
No, they're registered. Not that they have to be.
Well,
they're on private property.
Okay. Are they stored in the side yards? How far are they from the property line from your neighbors? I don't care about the canal. I care about the 2 sides.
From the one neighbor on the right, they're at least 50 feet away. From the neighbor on the left, they're at least 30 feet away. There's a whole house in between the one neighbor, and then on the other side, there's at least 30 feet.
Yeah, well, see, this is the disadvantage you put me at by not giving me a site plan.
Just to make it clear, when we say site plan, we don't mean just the legal rectangle for the size of the site.
Right, you want to see where the house is situated.
The specific siting location of the house,
right?
Scale dimension, of where the parking.
I understand.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Correct, I understand.
Yeah. So, understanding that we don't have it, I mean, it's just a bit of a disadvantage.
It's a simple fix. I can get it to you this week.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I think before we open up for public comment, unless there are any other questions here of the board.
Are you familiar with Good Friends?
I am.
And is your vision for your business similar, different?
It's very similar, yes.
So because Good Friends is adjacent to the borough, even though it's Fairless Hills, they claim that there are no other houses in this area of Bucks County.
Again, that take maintenance, medically assisted treatment. Good Friends does not take medically assisted treatment that I'm aware of.
I honestly don't know. I do know that Good Friends has ample staffing.
Can't hear. Get their mic. Speaking to your mic.
Good, sorry. Good Friends does have ample staffing on site. And my understanding is they do medical assisted treatment there.
Okay, they take men, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a woman's house.
Okay.
I have two questions before we open it to public comment. One is the applicant is Ms. Smith, and I understand you're the witness. Is Friendship First LLC, is it going to be a landlord-tenant relationship? How is this?
Correct.
How is
Correct.
this structure going to work? From
landlord-tenant.
Okay, so there will be a lease between Ms. Smith and Friendship First.
Correct.
Okay, and then how do you work with your tenants? Do they sign a contract? Do they sign a lease?
I believe when I submitted the application, you have the policies and procedures, rules and regulations. That's what they will be signing.
But that's it. So there's no.
Correct.
Okay.
That in essence is the lease.
I know you encourage them to stay at least 6 months. It's said in your literature.
We encourage them to stay as long as they feel that it is benefiting them. We don't have a timetable on when people need to leave. As long as they're doing the right thing and remaining sober, we're not going to throw them out of our house.
So it could be a long-term living situation for someone.
It could be, yes.
Okay. And can you just explain for our benefit and maybe the benefit of the audience who hasn't had a chance to read your literature, how you operate? You're going to have 9 women living there in 3 rooms. They are required to work.
Correct.
Unless they are under some further disability that they're unable to work?
Correct. Unless they are completely disabled, as determined by Social Security disability, they'll be required to maintain a job.
So what kind of activity will be happening at the house on a daily basis? When do people come in? When do people leave? When do they return?
It's all based on their schedule, just like any other person lives at any other house. There's no, some people will work a night shift, some people will work a day shift. It really is going to depend on the individual schedule of each individual that comes to the house.
And
I can't give you I can't say that they'll be there 9 to 5. They won't be there 9 to 5. Some people work nights, some people work days, some people work mid shift. It's really going to be up.
Absent the curfew. So if they work night shift, they obviously are not abided by the curfews that are set place.
Right. We'll make exceptions. Obviously, if you're working nights, you're not going to be able to make a 10 o'clock curfew. So there will be some give and take on our end with our residents.
But for your typical, so you have a day shift worker for the most part. They are leaving at 8 a.m. to get to a job, returning at
5:30, 6 o'clock.
5:30, and are they required to stay in the house after that period of time?
They're required to go to a meeting.
In the house itself?
No, there's one at Good Friends, as was mentioned, and I believe there's another one around the corner at the church. But they can go to any meeting that they choose. They're just the ones that are within walking distance.
Once per week, correct?
Once per day to start.
Once per day?
Correct.
I thought the literature said once per week.
Again, it will vary, but at the initial stage, depending on what stage of sobriety they're at, that will vary.
Okay. So
as I have told tenants, the rules and regulations are a loose guideline. It's not going to be the same exact thing for every tenant. Some tenants will be 12 months, 2 years sober. Some will be 60 days sober. It will really just depend on the individual. It's more of a loose guideline for some structure.
Can I ask that?
Yeah, who will be monitoring all of this?
There will be a camera on the inside of the house that will monitor both doors. I'll be able to speak through the camera. There will also be a house manager that lives around the corner. Like I said, she is 25 years sober at this point, and she will be handling the day-to-day, stopping by throughout the day.
And tenants sign a lease?
Correct.
And a contract?
Contract, lease. semantics.
No, it's really not semantics. There is a difference. So they'll be signing a contract, I understand, not a lease. Okay. And the administrator, again, is not living in the facility. The administrator or / manager, I think the literature stated administrator, but you're calling her a manager that will be living.
There will be two. There will be a manager that lives in the house at some point. However, we can't. Is at the house. Once a woman steps up and shows her sobriety and that she can handle the day-to-day life and she can handle managing other people, she'll be the manager from the inside, as well as you'll see by the literature, it says acting administrator. She'll be living around the corner. She'll be stopping by on a daily basis, morning and night. And as I said, there'll be a camera inside with a speaker that will allow me to speak to anyone inside the house at any time. It also has facial recognition, so it will recognize who's coming and who's going at all times.
And how often will you be monitoring the facility?
I'll be there. Like I said, I'll have the camera every single day.
Okay. Other questions?
No.
Yes. Public to speak or?
Okay, and in the literature, they provide meals for the residents, correct? Of the tenants?
As I tell my tenants, we will provide basic necessities, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, spaghetti, rice. You're not going to eat a steak dinner at our house unless you buy your steak.
But I mean, is it like a scheduled dinner time they have? Or
No,
that hasn't been determined?
At this point, nothing's been determined. There will be a chore list that will allow the tenants to come together and figure out when their schedules accommodate. Maybe 3 of them will cook a meal together. It's just really going to depend on the tenants that we get.
And the thing you mentioned about being a medically assisted facility, and there's only one other in the county.
Correct.
And that's
that I'm aware of. There may be another one, but with all the meetings that I've been to and everything that I've heard and the facilities I've been to, this is a need that has been unfilled at this point.
okay. So what makes your house unique is the fact that the tenants there could be just prescribed a narcotic.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I want to be clear about. Now, because other recovery houses are pretty strict about medications, I imagine. I don't know.
It'll be. We're not.
Recovery houses have people in methadone programs and or on Suboxone.
Do they?
Yes.
Again, not that I'm aware of. Like I said, all the meetings I've been to, the only one that I'm familiar with is the one in Doylestown.
And being the medically assisted facility, I mean, what are there any guidelines for a place like that differs from other recovery houses? Obviously, because tenants are prescribed narcotics, some of them are.
Guidelines as per the state? No.
Okay. I'm just trying to.
No, I understand. It's a very, as I've come to know, it's a very unregulated field. The state of Pennsylvania is kind of in flux at this point, as is the rest of the country. It's not like I'm trying to skirt any system. There's no system in place at this point.
Right. Okay. I'm just, you know.
No, I understand.
Want to understand what
absolutely
makes your facility unique.
That is the distinguishing factor, and the fact that it's female. It's
okay.
Just it's almost non-existent, as I said.
Okay, any other questions from anyone on the board? Or Rain, anyone? Okay. Okay, at this point, I assume that Alexandra and David, you have no further evidence to submit. I mean, obviously this.
I'll submit the site plan so that you have it. I'll submit that this week. I don't have it. I'll check my bag. I may or may not have it.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident it's.
Keep it open.
Okay, we
until-
can keep
if
it
you
open
would-
for that.
I appreciate it.
However, I mean, we must make a decision this evening. I mean, we can't withhold the decision based on site plan's subsequent arrival, right?
I feel like that's a small detail in the decision process.
It is.
Okay.
Well,
All right. So at this point, then, is there any objection to closing the record to any further testimony or evidence? Okay, we will consider it closed at this point. Now we come to the public comment session. Oh, my. And may I ask, please, we certainly want people to be able to express themselves. We'll be here till 1:30 in the morning if everyone got to say everything that they'd like to say, probably. So let me just ask that for those that would like to come up, and initially we'll say anyone in favor. That'll be a short line, I believe. Sure.
Just on the site plan and the cars, if that's going to become an issue, we will absolutely limit the amount of cars that are at the facility.
Yeah, well, see, that's the kind of information that we, at this point in time, would have included as part of the final decision, would be constraints placed on, giving the variance. So, but I guess we'll.
Well, we can do that if you're agreeable that if that's not.
Most of the tenants don't drive anyway. I don't anticipate parking to be an issue. But yeah, most of them do not have licenses, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for public comment, I just ask that everyone please keep their commentary very short, hopefully succinct to the land use and area variance. If everyone describes to us their personal feelings about what the patients at this facility may or may not be and many other subjective things, we could go on a long time, and we don't want to enter into that. Also, if someone has already, before you, stated what you intended to state, it's probably better that we don't really need 15 people to say the same thing. So that's my request, just so that we all get through this in an expeditious and yet thorough fashion. So first, please, anyone up for public comment in favor of this facility or these variances? Okay, barring that, may we start out with public comment against?
Okay, so I'm Ronald Gumbach, 730 Crown Street, and I have here the Friendship First LLC brochure, which was submitted with the application.
Right.
And the brochure reads, since its inception, Friendship First has helped individuals reunite with their families, develop a lifestyle centered on concrete spiritual principles, et cetera, et cetera. The best that I could find at the Department of State, Pennsylvania website was that Friendship First filed as a fictitious name in March. So I was wondering how many people they helped since March. And Friendship First, I'm a little confused as to who is who, because Friendship First, from what I see, is filed as a fictitious name for Daniel Moyer LLC. And I was wondering what Daniel Moyer LLC is, since he's obviously the person going to be running this.
Okay.
Pardon me? Gombach. So.
Thank you.
Hi, Robin Cavanaugh again, 457 North Delmore. I've lived at my property for 39 years. I've seen that house from when it was a shack and, rebuilt. I don't have the exact stats as far as space. There's no way there's 30 or 50 feet on either side. I am in objection because of everything that does not apply to the zoning law that's right here. And I feel that also with the cars going into that backyard, which is very long and very narrow, and it doesn't take up the whole length because you've got embankment there before now, so that takes space away. There are children next door. You have all those cars going back through that driveway and cutting in. What if they got to cut in, cut out? That little boy that lives there is right on the brunt of that. You know, it's safety for that child as well. We're a neighborhood community. We always have been, and I would like to keep it that way. I have petitions here I'd like to give to you. We have well over 300 signatures against this variance. So who would take those? Just bring them up to him.
So we can mark this as
I think it's
we are,
D.
yeah, Exhibit D1. We'll take as onto the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Graff, 461 North Delmore. My husband and I have lived there for a little over 10 years. I appreciate your time. I'd like to say, Ms. Smith and the board, I have 40 plus years experience in human services, 20 or more of those years counseling this exact population in medically assisted treatment settings and in non-medically assisted treatment settings. And I have to tell you, I speak out of concern for the proposed residents at this location because I'm aware of the exact triggers they'll be dealing with in that environment. The bench literally right across the street from their house is where people sit and smoke marijuana, and we smell the marijuana clouds blowing into our windows at night on the weekends. A week ago, my neighbor had to go out on his porch and yell at a guy for sitting in a car across the street snorting drugs. A month ago, my husband and I called 911 because a woman was in a car outside of that home, passed out, either alcohol or drugs, nodding off, hitting her head on the steering wheel. We called 911. We had to distract her from driving away before the police got there. I think that it's not fair to these residents to set them up for relapse. We're setting them up in a very high trigger environment. I know every day when we leave for work, my neighbors and I, we clean up beer cans and beer bottles from the area right outside where these folks will be living. And in those 20 years, when I worked in these homes, I can't tell you how many times we said, do they ever consider where they're putting these people to live? And I understand clinically you have to deal with triggers when you're in recovery. I understand that. The normal trigger is driving by a liquor store and resisting it. But these triggers are beyond normal. It's an environment that sober people who aren't fighting addiction struggle to thrive in. And I don't think it's fair. I think we're discriminating against this population by putting them in environments where there's extraordinary triggers. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Randall Kenner, 613 North Delmore Avenue. I'd like to just address the land usage here, the R2 zone. Their property has approximately 14,904 square feet, and this usage requires an acre, which is 43,560 square feet. You're talking less than half the space that's required. You're talking, the zoning calls for one parking space per patient and one for each staff. All right? It doesn't matter what Mr. Moyer has to say, that's what it calls for. You know, and keep that in mind because those patients can change and the number of vehicles and stuff like that can change along with it. And so can the number of staff members. And thirdly, I just want to point out, there is no hardship for Ms. Smith. She's the owner. She's not the business operator. She's going to make a profit, even if this business, even if this structure was renovated and leased as a residential home, which conforms to the zoning. There is no hardship and there's no discrimination for ADA here. This is all Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenner.
Hi, Tom Wisnowski, 815 Crown Street. I want to thank you for being here tonight and for facing this mob. Usually the decisions that you have to make are not quite so crucial. Usually it's the porch needs to be a foot deeper. Things that affect a person but not a neighborhood and not maybe potentially a whole community. Speaking of community, I want to make it clear that I'm speaking for myself and only for myself, but I want to give everyone who's here opposed to this the chance to at least raise their hand and be counted by you. So if you're here and you're opposed to this variance, just please raise your hand or stand up, just so you're aware of the showing. Thank you. I think this is makes quite a statement. Morrisville is a diverse place. It's a welcoming community. We celebrate diversity here. We nurture and take care of all of our people, including our people with disabilities. We are not a discriminatory community in any way, and we have many facilities in our town already to prove that. We take care of our people. We recognize that addiction is a terrible problem, but we do something about it. We take care of people. I am completely opposed to this usage request for all the reasons that you will hear tonight. But my list changed as I was listening to Mr. Moyer's testimony because I think it's clear that they are completely unprepared to be at this hearing this evening. They have not filed the correct paperwork. They didn't even know which variances they need or don't need. And that makes me wonder how prepared they might be to take care of people with serious life-threatening disabilities on a long-term basis. I don't think there's any preparation here. They're certainly not prepared to answer your questions about land use. They're certainly not prepared to answer a question about parking 9 cars on a lot the size of a postage stamp. And then the story changed. Well, they all have to work, but now they're not all going to drive, so I guess they're all going to walk to work. It makes no sense. They're unprepared. I also want to make really clear that the ADA very definitely protects people with disabilities. It's very strong. I'm sure you all know that. The ADA does not in any way protect Friendship First. Friendship First is a business. They're coming in here to hopefully run it as a business. They've created their own hardship, and you're already aware of the code that says you can't create your own hardship, that has no standing in a zoning hearing. Because they've chosen to try and get this usage of this building changed, that means nothing. They made a couple other statements that I would like to address real quickly. Let's see. Well, I guess the last thing I really need to say to you is that Mr. Moyer, in his testimony, which changed radically from moment to moment, said there is no reason to deny this land use change, these variances. I think there is every reason to deny it, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
William Sadser, 806 Crown Street. Tom's points are all well made. Many of them are things I was going to say myself. But most of us here are homeowners. We've been here. Maybe we moved to this area because we like the residential quality of it. And to suddenly pack in 9 individuals into something, a 3-bedroom house, I think we should all just think to ourselves, I have a 3-bedroom house. I can't even imagine 9 people, not family, packed into it, listening to orders over a camera. I think it's a real powder keg. It's an idea. I don't think it's a well thought out idea. I don't think it conforms to any of our zoning plans, which are plans. These aren't just random. Maybe the state of Pennsylvania doesn't have guidelines for your proposals and certifications, but we do have guidelines here in Morrisville, and I'd like to see the zoning board stick to it and not grant the variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Minder, 423 Crown Street. I think one thing before you do anything, I think the members of the zoning board should take a walk down and take a look at that property. I mean, just sitting here and talking about it, it's not going to tell you one thing or another. Another thing, he said there's going to be 9 people in there, that's 9 cars. What about the administrator? That's a 10th car. What about somebody else? So there's going to be more cars. Another thing, he said that he belonged to this, he belonged to that, and I didn't hear you ask to see his credentials or anything. I think you should ask him to show you all these things that he belongs to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Member. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Ann Perry, 43 Fairview. When you were talking about the law, it is a new law. It's Senate Bill 446, passed December 19th, 2017, signed into law by Governor Wolf. It's a law that directs the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs to license or certify drug and alcohol recovery houses that do receive referrals from state or state-funded facilities or receive federal or state funding. And while that may not apply to you now, it very may well in the near future. So the regulatory changes have been signed into law and are coming. So that's the law. I just wanted to clear the record.
Hello, my name is Robert Gabriel, 65 East Philadelphia Avenue. My question is basically towards Dave. What type of camera system are you planning on installing? Is it electric motivated? Because everybody knows that a lot of houses just recently lost power. Once you lose power, if that camera goes out, you have no feasible way of getting in touch with anybody or concentrating on what's going on in that building. I know I have a system at home, and when the power goes out, you get nothing. That's it.
Thank you.
Randy Hallman, 510 Crown Street. Thank you for this meeting. Thank you for coming. I just would have a parting thought that this was subjected to a hearing previously and denied for two reasons especially. And I think you, or whatever number of reasons there were, this is an appeal hearing, correct?
No, this is first impressions.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This is the first time before this board.
Okay. Well, then I guess my point is pointless because I was under the impression this was an appeal hearing. I was going to say, what have we heard this evening that would cause that to be changed? But that's really irrelevant now. But thank you anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mary Grenda, 343 Crown Street. And I'm basically asking you primarily not to grant the variance because we have zoning and planning for a good reason. And the reason is that we want to, have our community the way we want it to be. And, we want to have housing in certain areas and we can allow, different businesses in different areas. But once you start mixing them all up, your neighborhood loses its atmosphere, its quality. And so I would like to not go down the slippery slope because, I would hate to see Morrisville get into the bad habit of granting variances left and right for things, especially in this case when the reason that these people want to do something in this building is because the owner wants to do it now, and not because they looked for a place in Morrisville where they can do that is appropriate to the business that they want to do, and locate and couldn't find one, but they found one almost or something like that, and they could do it there, and it was not in a residential neighborhood, but it was in a commercial neighborhood or a area that was zoned for this type of business. Just because the owner wants to do this here is no reason to grant a variance. Also, I think that to make a decision without even seeing the site plan would be very, very, it would be subject to, you're opening yourself to a multitude of errors because you don't see what the property actually looks like, its dimensions, its elevations, and is it suitable? Does it, is it suitable at all for what the use will be, and does it conform to what Mr. Moyer said that it is? It's better to have it right in front of you, the evidence, and not make a decision on the fly, which isn't necessary. Because that opens yourself to really grave errors, after the fact. So I would like you to consider all the evidence. Also, I really haven't heard anything that tells me that the people that are asking for this variance are actually qualified to run a facility like this. I don't see credentials. You think they'd have some kind of credentials. So thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Fowler, 444 Hillside Avenue in Morrisville. A couple of points. When I first came up here and gave my name earlier, I was still on the fence as far as whether this should be granted or whether it should be, opposed and denied. And I haven't heard anything from the applicants that really convinced me that this was really a good idea. In fact, it's a bad idea and a disaster waiting to happen. I want to mention we've had several floods that affected Delmore Avenue in 2004, 2005, 2006. Those of you who live on Delmore Avenue may remember the carp swimming down Delmore Avenue on their way down to Williamson Park, where they were then corralled. The firemen had to drain the backyards of many of the people who lived along Delmore Avenue on the downslope of the canal as well. That backyard, in order to accommodate cars, is going to have to be upgraded, meaning you're going to have gravel, you're going to have sufficient impacting so that you don't have flooding that occurs there now. In the event that you do get a catastrophic flooding where it comes over the canal, which is possible, it's happened 3 times in the last 14 years, then I think that you need to be prepared for that type of impact. The other point I want to mention is that for a business which is going to be accommodating people, it would be very important to have a disaster recovery plan and a business continuity plan from these people. If you're going to have people in the house, you're going to have essentially medical treatment not occurring in the house, but they're going to be under treatment. If you have your power go out, you're going to need to have a backup generator in place. And if you have a backup generator in place, you need to have disaster recovery testing. So you need to be able to have annual testing of that backup generator as well. So I want you to consider very carefully. At this point, I am not in favor of this going forward. Thank you.
Here comes the GIMP. Jane Berger, 90 West Maple Avenue. I guess we don't need to be sworn in. The opioid crisis is certainly severe, and we certainly all need to do whatever we can. And that means it's extremely important that individuals that want to become engaged in this business of recovery be really qualified and competent. And I appreciate the efforts of these 2 applicants. However, a couple of things. One, if I remember from the zoning, unless you all go as a gang, you really aren't supposed to go out and kind of look at the properties. And what's more important is that if anyone comes before this esteemed body, they have a responsibility to do their due diligence, to do their homework, to come prepared. And not having that certainly raises other concerns about the feasibility of success for this well-intentioned project. There are 5 conditions, as you are very familiar with, in order to grant a variance. This is not a unique property, does not have any particular strange geological configurations. It is a house and is essentially going to be used as a house, not for family-related individuals, but for unrelated. for what they want. It clearly does not meet dimensional requirements. There's been a lot said about the parking and 5 cars, 6 cars, 9 cars, 11 cars. This property really isn't conformed to do that. We've heard ADA, and it is absolutely true. Clients are, but not the facility or the owners. And I certainly have seen it, and I've seen those steps. They look like they've got about 3 flights. Yeah, it's nice to know if someone needs a wheelchair or is on crutches or whatever, they will put an elevator in. That's not good enough. If you're going to go ADA, you really have to deal with all the qualifications up front. And I'm really concerned about that particular structure and that type of use. Parking across the street is really it's public. It's not for facilities, and is used for other means and for residents and the actors net and for other things that happen there. So that should not be an auxiliary parking if this facility would need it. There is no hardship. Before you buy a property and you have an intended use, again, you need to do your due diligence. You need to find out what can be done there. And that's the reason why we have zoning, and why non-conforming use has to come before this body, because it can change the character of the particular district. And I say district because this is an R2, but it could be something in any of the other zoning districts in town. So I have a concern about that. And I'll just let it go at that. But I think this well-intentioned company is really not prepared and not sure really what they need to do. And I think they have selected the wrong site. And one of the reasons you absolutely cannot give a zoning variance is to minimize economic loss or to maximize economic gains. Economics cannot be a factor in your consideration, and this really is intense a business, and there will be some funds coming in because someone has to pay the mortgage. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to get up and speak?
Just a quick comment. An earlier speaker mentioned the location was setting the potential residents up for failure. And this deals with the location. The location is between the Trenton Makes and the Calhoun Street Bridge. You can walk to Trenton in 5-10 minutes from that location. This location makes those of us who live between those two bridges subject probably to a higher crime rate than the people who live further away from the bridges. There was a reason that they find the beer cans and people using drugs in this location. It is very convenient to Trenton, and you are setting the residents up for failure if you locate such a facility there. Thank you.
Janet Baldwin, 439 North Delmore Avenue. I'm right next door to this house, and I can definitely tell you that during the rains and when we had our floods, both my backyard and their backyard gets flooded. There's no way you're going to be able to put any cars in that backyard on heavy rainy days or if the canal overflows. The other concern I have is that they're saying that there's going to be no supervision for these 9 women. They're going to have an administrator drop in once a day. To me, when you have 9 recovering addicts without supervision, that to me is just a recipe for disaster.
Joe Kavanaugh, 457 North Delmore Avenue. I just have a question for the owners. Why are you waiting so long since you've owned your property to apply for this variance? Is it because you had tenants there years ago and they totally destroyed that inside of the house and you cannot rent it out? I've seen people going in and out of that place. As a matter of fact, I called the police one time when I seen somebody walk right through the front door. And the police went down to investigate. I don't know what happened on that. No, the house has been there for I remember the old house. It was an old shack. They tore it down. Okay, the man that was living at the house time, he passed away, and I guess the son took over the house, and they built this house. It looked nice. They had tenants come in. Everything was fine. All of a sudden, the place is empty. Light fixtures are gone. From my understanding, they took the copper wire out of the walls, everything. They gutted the whole house. Now, if they wanted to sell the house, but keep it zoned the way it is. That's the way I feel.
Okay, anyone else to speak against proposed facility?
Hi, Deborah Shimoleski at 853 Highland Avenue. I just want to say, to me, it's always just been a cut and dry thing that it's zoned R2 and the property isn't big enough and there's not enough parking. So why do we have to go through this? There are areas right in Morrisville where you can do this. So that's the point I just wanted to make, and I'm against it.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak at this time? And I thank you. There was not a lot of redundancy in all that commentary. A lot of it was very good. Okay, with that, we shall prepare to go into executive session for deliberation to make our decision on the matter. So we should be just a few minutes.
It's better.
Can always count on you to fill in the blanks. All the years that we never had a flood. Back in 1965. So you have one girl and you have they got to file to the state that some people say water back. I see you way down. Right? But imagine they didn't do that. But then that's something I remember that years ago you were going to do that. I remember all the talk about it. You're right about that.
I want to see what's going
Good. Now, either when you call me or you send me a text message, Debbie made me leave. Yeah, she made me leave it in the car so it wouldn't bring me to the car. I always have to sound off. What's the Right, yeah. Well, see, I have half the time I can never find a voice. Yeah. Well, I have to set an alarm because my dog gets medication sometimes a day. So, he has a bone cancer. They found a bone tumor for 8 of its bones. So they recommended side. Wouldn't eat anything more. So I just took him up an hour for cyberknife. He's great. He's doing so good. I mean, it is. It really is. Yes, it is. She brings me the email. He's already in mine. No, he's a black wire. I sing. He does. He sings to the national anthem. He sings all the songs in Enchanted. He actually sings. As soon as the movie comes on. Yeah, so he is. He's my cat. And in so many ways, you can see Terry Street. It's just all the stuff he's been through. Like his daddy never complains. I mean, Terry never complained. All that he went through and everything. This is a double whammy, though. It's 2 of them. With Walden Strips and Apple. So it's like, Yeah, you know the thing that didn't realize. It started out as a black eye. He had a black eye, and we go black. So we went to 5 different eye doctors. One is real eye, and his eye was specified around the eye. And if the first doctor had diagnosed it and said, beyond me, go to a rheumatologist or whatever, he would have caught it early enough. 5 different doctors we went to. That was the only symptom.
I guess you afterwards and say, everybody else.
Right, right? Yeah, right? Because I mean, we went to the amyloidosis support group, and when we came back from that, was the first time we had because there were so many people who were living with it for so long. Oh, I hope so. I don't know, after I woke up this nose. Right, because there are no regulations and the thing is, the cameras are going to get I went up there and
I know.
I'll wait.
I didn't notice
I was in there the other day looking at him and thinking, oh God, that's so oh my God. It's just we didn't even
Okay, we're going to reconvene, please. At this point, the board decides to deny the request for use variance of the applicant. Applicant does not present evidence or sufficient evidence to prove the requirements of a variance pursuant to our ordinance, and applicant did not present a hardship. Our zoning ordinance does not present any unnecessary hardship on the applicant. There are other areas within the borough that could accommodate this request. The applicant can use the property for its intended permissible purposes. The applicant did not present sufficient evidence for the additional variances requested, including the size of the lot and the necessary parking. And to be clear, we are not discriminating. This is not the only way a disabled person can live in this residential area or within the borough. And that is it.
Your decision.
So, with that, may I have a motion to approve the denial of the request for variance, please?
I make a motion that we deny the application.
I second it.
May I have a roll call vote, please, Mr. Secretary?
Rafael Persico.
Aye.
Wayne O'Neill. Aye. Steve Schmelzer.
Aye. Motion carries. The request is denied.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a few housekeeping measures before everybody leaves, especially the applicant. The board has 45 days to prepare a written decision. The written decision with findings of fact and conclusions of law will be mailed to the applicant and every other party who came forward at the beginning of the hearing. An appeal may be filed with the Court of Common Pleas of Bucks County within 30 days of a written decision or of our written decision. If no appeal is filed, the decision of the board becomes final. The next meeting of this hearing board will be held on May 7th, 2018.
And that is it. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I give a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Meeting adjourned.